And ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the FinTech Philippines and Digital Pilipinas Thanksgiving event. My name is RJ Ledesma and I am very honored to be your host and moderator for today's Thanksgiving event. Now, right before we begin, I do hope that you've all received your gift boxes from our good friends in Manila House. I hope you're enjoying the great appetizers, the great Manila House iced tea. Please let us know in the chat box, have you already received your Christmas basket so you can enjoy the rest of the afternoon with us? And again, to all of our friends here watching us live right now at our Thanksgiving event, please say hi to us right now there in the chat box. Hello to everyone. Please let us know what financial institution or media outfit you represent so we can say hi to all of you again. Good afternoon to Brian Rilio Rosa, to Angie Lou de los Reyes, Lila Martin, Robertson Chang, kumusta? Dick of Dragonflame, thanks so much for joining us. We've got Raymond Rabanera here right now. Edison Sai, how are you? Mozi Serrano, how are you doing? Great to see so many of our good friends over here. I'm sure this will be a great afternoon full of learning and insights. And after discussing what's going to be talked about here this afternoon with our good friend Amor Maclang, I'm sure there will be a lot in store for you listening to us here today. Again, a good friend, Ronnie Bautista from Tech in Asia. Thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon. Please do stay around. Rod Abad, Business Mirror. Hello, guys. Thanks so much for saying hi. And if you've got any questions later on for any of our speakers, please do put your questions in our Q&A box. In the meantime, please do enjoy the great Manila House meal prepared for you from our good friends here at FinTech Philippines and Digital Pilipinas. Now, the theme we're tackling is Open Finance Philippines 2022. Now, this event is a way for us to say how grateful we are for the past year. And as we greet 2022, and what a great way to greet it right now that, we're at almost minimum risk here in Metro Manila. They're coming out and saying that right now we're able to manage COVID here in the Philippines. So again, a round of applause, please, to all the people, the government officials, the public officials and public servants who have made this Pasko possible for all of us. We greet this coming 2022 with open arms, and we're all paving the way towards the new chapter of open finance in the country, together with our new champions, who I will introduce to all of you later on. Now, this event would not be possible without the support of our good friends, of course, FinTech Philippines Association, Digital Pilipinas, Brancas, the National Privacy Commission, Philippine National Bank, the Bankers Association of the Philippines, Diet Center, Bank of the Philippine Islands, Visa, and GoTime. And to kick off our event, please welcome my very hardworking friend and the convener of the Digital Pilipinas and Executive Director and Trustee of the FinTech Philippines Association. Please welcome Ms. Amor Maclang. Let's give her a round of applause. Amor, thanks so much for putting all this together.
Yes, hello. Actually, we really stand on the shoulders of giants here in the fintech and the finance space. I actually just came from a luncheon with the leaders in the insurance sector, PLIA, PIRA, who have all come together and have been a very constant supporter of FinTech Philippines Association. I remember that the last coming together, the physical gathering that we had close to 350 people in person for an InsurTech event, and then just a couple of weeks after the lockdown happened. So here in the association, we are the largest trade association and certainly the most inclusive, championing fintech. So the one thing that really differentiates our philosophy when it comes to fintech is that we see it not as a vertical, but rather as a horizontal that powers various industries. No? So while my team is booting up the presentation, I have quickly a few slides, and a lot of that has to really do with sharing with you what has happened the past year, and more importantly, what can we all look forward to in 2022? So my name is Amor Maclang. Aside from being the executive director and trustee of FinTech Philippines Association, I'm also the convener of Digital Pilipinas, which I'll share with you in a bit. And very proud to be working with many of the government bodies when it comes to promoting open finance. So first and foremost, of course, is the office of Secretary Dominguez. And open finance is a very important pillar for them. And we have today Commissioner Mon Liboro of the National Privacy Commission. I will leave it to him to talk about the inroads that he's undertaking for the industry. There you go. Thank you. We would also like to thank and recognize the new champions of open finance, starting with the president of the Bankers Association of the Philippines, Mr. Wick Veloso. Wick, thank you not just for supporting this, but also for supporting the launch of our PropTech Consortium. Yet another industry, legacy industry that we're taking up. Maraming salamat. Mr. Todd Schweitzer, who is the Director of Open Banking for Asia Pacific. And Todd will be talking about the importance of us all discussing and dialoguing in an API economy. I had a good chat with BPI's Mr. Noel Santiago. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing your journey from legacy to now open finance and open banking champion. And the fact that Visa has actually planted the flag in terms of open finance is something that everyone here is very excited to hear about. Always happy to see one of the pillars in electronic money in the country, not just our fintech, Mr. Jojo Malolos, President and CEO of GoTime. Last but not the least is Mr. Lawrence Ferrer of the Bayad Center. This is all made possible because of the enormous hard work of our Board of Trustees. And today we are joined by Ms. Edith Yongsan and Attorney Mark Goriseta, who are our official representatives to OFOC. And they'll talk about that in a bit. No, I did not misspeak. I did say OFOC. And later, we will have Mr. Jove Tapiador, the co-founder and trustee of FinTech Philippines. And to make sure that all of you become part of our families, Mr. Edison Tsai of SeedIn. In behalf of our chair, Dr. Tito Ortiz, and our other trustees, Mr. Mark Vernon is calling all the way from Cyprus, one of the founding fathers of FinTech in the Philippines, George Royeca of Angkas. We would like to welcome all of you. Next slide, please. So our advocacy here in FinTech Philippines Association, as it dovetails into Digital Pilipinas, is really how do we tech up the country, confronting the various problems of the country that are addressable with technology. And a most tangible way to tech up the country is by making sure that the flow in and out of money, payments, investments are seamless. And that's why we say in a Digital Pilipinas, we are powered not just by Web 3.0, but more importantly by FinTech. So I'm not going to go through all of the 12 pain points, but specific today, we will see how we can discourse better in a digital economy. Next slide, please. So we are very, very grateful to the partners and the co-conveners of Digital Pilipinas. FinTech Philippines is the official partner of Digital Pilipinas in promoting its FinTech advocacy in the country. We are supported by two countries, that of the government of Singapore and also the government of the Philippines. And we thank all our co-conveners who are all listed here for believing that a Digital Pilipinas can happen in this lifetime, in our lifetime. Next slide, please. So we have 5 very important pillars under Digital Pilipinas. First and foremost is all about market education, which can then rise to the mass adoption through mass adoption of certain nascent technologies. You know, RJ, I'm sure you know that the Philippines is one of the top five in terms of crypto uptake in the world, and even more so in terms of esports and gaming. So it's not really just Hidden Diaz that has put us in the map, but many of the technologies and even the inroads in finance has actually put the Philippines quite prominently in the ASEAN and global map. We also want to create more job placement and education. So, for example, in the case of the esports space, we're going to be running a caravan next year. Imagine, RJ, you had to study overseas in MIT to be where you are.
That's
But
right.
now, can you imagine you take on, say, an ethical hacking course, and there's like zero unemployability, right, in that space? Or if you want to be a shoutcaster, I think, RJ, you'll do well as a shoutcaster, truth be told. It's not too late. And more importantly, we are taking the success stories of the sandbox, both regulatory and also
Mhm.
industry, that we've seen in the financial services space, and actually embedding it across various national line agencies. We are so grateful for the support of the various NLAs, but more importantly, I take special exception to Commissioner Mon Liboro, who's here with us today, because under the aegis of the National Privacy Commission, we'll be working with them through Digital Pilipinas and FinTech Philippines across various industry sandboxes, which you'll see below. Last but not the least would be making sure that we have an enabling regulation when it comes to technology for both legislation and policy. So one of our trustees, Mr. George Oreca, has gone through such an excruciating process of finding a way to align, regulatory also with the innovations in the ride-hailing space. But not everyone can put up that good a fight. And what we're doing is collectivizing everyone's efforts to make sure that we have the right regulatory and legislative environment to support all of you technologists and innovators out there. So very quickly, we're running 8 projects and sandboxes in Digital Pilipinas, and thanks to the support of FinTech Philippines Association, last October 22, we launched in the Philippines, and also last November 11, we launched it globally through World FinTech Festival, the Business Without Borders program. And the intent here, RJ, is to help businesses actually trade in trust and security outside of their traditional borders. Last September 9, and Mr. Vic Veloso was part of our keynote there, we launched the PropTech Consortium of the Philippines. And the intent here is really to tech up the real estate industry in the country. We're also very happy to note that we are running a sandbox with Globe, the Department of Energy, and Aboitiz Power. And I'll keep you all posted on that note. In the case of education, I'll discuss that with you in a bit. Last November, and the first beneficiaries are actually the MSMEs and the members of good standing of FinTech Philippines Association. We rolled out along with Oxygen, which is the education platform of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, a micro certification on the blockchain. So, can you imagine, RJ, all of those events and conferences that you attended during the pandemic? I mean, basically, you have virtually little to show for the learnings that you gain. But now, moving forward in 2022, we're going to be embedding all of these classes by the thought leaders in the space into a consolidated platform called Oxygen. And the accreditation will be done through Affinity, which is a fully owned subsidiary of Temasek. No? So imagine your learning and your credentials portable with you on the blockchain. Last August 10, we launched and convened the InsurTech and Health Tech Association of the Philippines. And in Q1, we're going to be running on the Apex platform a hackathon that would allow us to solve our pressing problems of interconnectedness between public health and also at the same time the insurance industry. A pet project that I'm working on, thank you to Globe for their support, is a tokenization of carbon credits. Thank you to Globe for believing that there is a financial incentive related to protecting the environment. Last November, and we're going to be launching it formally in March, will be WeLift, which is the Women in Innovation, Finance, and Technology. So how do we continue to break more glass ceilings? Last but not the least, I did mention our campaign related to esports and gaming. Everyone is hot and bothered and excited about the play to earn space. I don't know if you're not aware of it, where have you been hiding? I'm sure many of you are running and supporting a couple of teams, as I am. Last but not the least, and I'm very happy that Commissioner Libor is here, and I'll leave it to him to talk about this advocacy. Last November 19, we came together with some of the largest players in the industry, from Globe, GCash, Coin, 7-Eleven. Oh my God, who have I forgotten? Coins, GCash, Globe, net of this Union Bank, and net of discussion, there were close to around 100 million unique names, 100 plus unique names. So I was teasing Commissioner, sir, if we wanted to, we can make or break an election, but we won't, because we do all in the spirit of good governance. Next slide, please. I'm down to my last two slides. So the key highlights of what we did last year, and really can be boiled down into three. First and foremost is ensuring that all of these technology innovations are benefiting our MSMEs. So this is all about the digitalization of MSMEs, and this is in partnership with the MAS's platform called Proxtera. I mentioned earlier the microcertification in partnership with the Oxygen platform and Elevanti of the MAS. And last but not the least, last November 11, the Philippines and Singapore during Digital Filipinas and World FinTech Festival expanded our payment partnership. So what that means is, say, a coffee grower in Tawi-Tawi can now transact and transfer money through a mobile number to someone, for example, in Hanoi. So can you imagine, RJ, you are a champion of MSMEs. Can you imagine what that will do once we become truly borderless? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We can go through this quickly. Next slide. Next. Last and final slide is to give you guys an idea of what's in store for 2022. I thought after November we were going to get a break, but you know, no good deed goes unpunished. We're continuing our full throttle into 2022. So allow me to give you a very quick snapshot of what's in store for FinTech Philippines and Digital Pilipinas. So underpinning the technology, it's not Web 1.0, which is basically the exchange of email and photos, AKA the pornographic internet era. The next phase, which is Web 2.0, is all about the exchange, social media, central hubs, etc. What we're doing in Digital Pilipinas and FinTech Philippines is all about decentralized ecosystems done in good governance, big data, and also AI, right? So I talked about the platforms. I mentioned the academic certifications. Q1 of next year, we're running an education summit, and this is equipping the board and the current board and teachers the correct tech stack and also the mindset for taking up their academic institutions. The state universities will be the primary beneficiary of this initiative. Essentially, we will be launching our innovation hubs in many of the state U's in 2022. I'm going to skip the MSME advocacy. I mentioned that earlier. Fourth, I mentioned it. Fifth is something very exciting. We'll get to hear from our friends in open finance and open banking the importance of connecting to each other in an API economy. And when people ask me, I tell them that if you want to dialogue in a digital economy, the only language you need to learn, the lingua franca of a digital economy is an API language. And later, we'll have some of the best and brightest in the region to talk about that. We're also running 4 hackathons next year, all with the AFIN and Apex platform. AFIN, by the way, the official partner of AFIN in the Philippines is FinTech Philippines Association. So very happy to say that. There are 4 pain points that we are managing for next year. That will be InsurTech and Health Tech, number 1. Second is cybersecurity. Third is the digitalization of MSME. Sorry, and of course, open finance. Last but not the least, very important that for 2022, we are able to challenge our those who are running for public office. And with Digital Pilipinas, what we're going to do is confront every one of those who are running for office, especially at the presidential level, to ask them what their platform is to build a digital Pilipinas. So our hope is to really make innovation and technology at front and center of our agenda, not just as FinTech Philippines, but as a country. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po tayong lahat. And we look forward to helping build a digital Pilipinas with you and FinTech Philippines Association. Over to you, paring RJ.
Maraming salamat, Ward. Looks like you've been busy amidst this pandemic. And you know what? I'd like to think that, amongst the people attending here right now online, in fact, the members of FinTech Philippines, is that this pandemic has actually accelerated all our planning, accelerated everything else, and really given us an opportunity to broaden our mindset right now to see what are the new problems that we can solve, especially given your 12-point agenda. So again, congratulations to you, Amor. It's going to be a very, very busy year ahead for the members of Digital Pilipinas and FinTech Philippines. So again, thanks so much, Amor. A lot to observe from you, and hopefully we get more people joining the different sectors and spokes of Digital Philippines and of course FinTech Philippines as well at the same time. Now, moving on quickly, we are now very excited to know what's in store for open finance in 2022. We're looking forward to more developments in this space. So with that, please welcome Commissioner Mon Liboro from the National Privacy Commission for a few words. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Our first keynote speaker of the day. Maraming salamat for joining us today, Commissioner Mon Liboro.
Hi RJ, hi Amor, and good afternoon to all our friends. Thank you again for inviting me, Amor. I'm always happy to address our stakeholders, especially again that this sector is it's an exciting sector. I'm just here again as a regulator to tell everyone that our primary goal in implementing the Data Privacy Act is about ensuring that we trust businesses and government in what we do, right? By doing that, when we succeed in ensuring the trust is enabled for businesses to flourish, then we're assured that there's social stability, there's employment, this exchange of goods, right, and that the market will be robust, and that is a perfect environment to encourage more innovation and growth. So we are here to do our part. We're all aware, you're all aware again about the obligations of everyone in today's world. Our role is really to promote trust. Again, if you read the news, it's all about the SIM card registration, and this has got probably a big role to play in ensuring that digital finance and open finance and banking also would be relying on more trustworthy tools and implements to be able to to maintain a trusted environment where we can all exchange data, information, and goods. So with that, let me just again congratulate everyone. My office is definitely open to our stakeholders. We are planning, of course, we are planning, as I've said this before, that we are coming up with certain policies too that we see would be an enabler, a regulatory sandbox policy that would enable our companies to come up with ideas and straight to the market, if possible, with an oversight, with the MPC oversight. So that's something that we are drawing up, and we hope to work closely with industry on this. So thank you, Amor. Thank you, RJ, and thank you to our friends. Good afternoon.
Again, good afternoon rin po, Commissioner Mon Libor. Thank you so much for helping set the groundwork for us to be able to launch our respective industries, building on the framework of trust, and hopefully that
That's
trust will
correct.
lead to innovation across all the different industries, both in FinTech Philippines and of course, Digital Philippines as well. Mabuhay po kayo, and I'm sure there's a lot of work in the future, but it's good work to build our digital infrastructure here in the Philippines. Again, sir, maraming salamat, Commissioner Mon Liboro, for joining us. And with that, with open finance closer to home, the role of the National Privacy Commission is more crucial than ever as we move data faster and better across several platforms. Now, moving on, I would like to welcome our second keynote speaker for today. He is the president of the Philippine National Bank and the Bankers Association of the Philippines. Mga kaibigan, please give a big round of applause to our good friend, Mr. Wick Veloso. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Wick, the floor is yours.
Maraming salamat. Good afternoon to everyone. Commissioner Mon Liboro, Convener Amor Maclang, distinguished panel of speakers, other guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen. The Bankers Association of the Philippines is supportive of the open finance framework being promoted by the Bangko Sentral. Sa simula pa lang, ang Bankers Association of the Philippines has expressed its willingness to cooperate with the BSP in socializing open finance among our members of universal and commercial banks. Naniniwala kami na itong customer-centric framework na to will allow banks and other financial providers to better serve their customers by offering them tailor-made financial products which addresses their needs. The open finance framework allows participants, such as banks, to share customer information with third-party providers. Halimbawa, ang isang fintech firm o ibang bangko can give their consent to share information, and these third-party providers or TPPs can leverage on its customer financial information to develop bespoke financial products and services for customer. Kapag sinabi nating bespoke, now, this is fight for the fittest. When I speak to my colleagues in the banking system, I've been telling them we are no longer competing with each other, but we are competing with the fintechs. These are these are actually technology companies, okay, that are disguised as financial institutions disguised as banks, or tech companies disguised as financial institutions. These TPPs can leverage on the customer financial information to develop financial products for customers. And the underlying principle for the open finance framework is that customers are the owners of personal and transaction data, and that this information can only be shared with the consent of the customers. As a way to illustrate, a customer whose accounts with several banks can give a TPP his consent to access information from all his banks. The TPP can then consolidate the information and provide a customer with a single consolidated view of his account balances and investments which will allow the customer and the PPP to make more informed investment decisions and create a portfolio which is tailor-made to meet the customer's financial goals. The sharing of information among participants in the open finance ecosystem requires the development of a common data standard for the exchange of information in the form of application programming interfaces or APIs. That's what Amores mentioned earlier, which allow the different system of the participants to exchange information with each other. It also requires standards for information security and data privacy, which will allow the safe and reliable exchange of information between the various participants, as well as a consent management system, which ensures that information that is being shared has the required customer consent o ang kliyente ay nagbibigay ng kaniyang oo sa pag-share ng information. These standards are required to contain the main risks in an open finance ecosystem. The possible loss of customer data due to lax information security standards and protocols, and a possible misuse of personal information due to non-adherence to data privacy laws. The BAP has always been supportive of the BSP's efforts to make the marketplace competitive. As you recall, the BAP was instrumental in setting up the Philippine Payments Management Inc. or PPMI, which is the governing body for retail payments in the country. Under PPMI's guidance, digital payment services were launched. PesoNet in 2017, InstaPay in 2018. At simula nun, the volumes and values of digital payments have grown exponentially. InstaPay and PesoNet services proved critically important during the pandemic, as this allowed the economic assistance offered by the government to flow efficiently to their intended beneficiaries. InstaPay and PesoNet also enabled the surge in transactions with various shopping, groceries, and food ordering online platforms. This also highlights the other key benefit of digital payments, the financial inclusion benefit, which allowed the unbanked population to be reached through non-traditional electronic wallet accounts offered by electronic money issuers. Ang interoperability of payment systems of banks and EMIs allowed money to flow freely between bank accounts and e-wallets and brought into the payments ecosystem non-bank payment system operators. The term co-op-petition, coined by the late BSP Governor Nestor Espinilla, combined the word cooperation and the word competition. It was embraced by the BAP when it set up PPMI. The BAP believed then and continues to believe today that increased competition in the market is good, not only for the consumers, but also for the banks and their so-called competitors, fintechs and other providers who compete with the same customers. The BAP believes that healthy competition is not a zero-sum game and that the true equation is 1 + 1 = 3. In this slide, the Open Finance Framework, which is the natural extension of the original National Retail Payments Framework, is welcomed by the Bankers Association of the Philippines. This framework has the same, if not more, potential benefit as the National Retail Payments Framework in expanding the reach of financial services to the general population. Having expounded on the benefits of open finance, allow me to inject an ounce of caution. The Open Finance Framework is more complex than the Retail Payments Framework. Open finance has significant implications on data privacy and information security, two areas which require careful consideration given the almost daily news on data breaches and cybersecurity incidents that occur globally. The Bankers Association of the Philippines wants to ensure that all players in the open finance ecosystem adhere to the same standard of care with respect to data privacy and information security, two areas which banks have traditionally been consistently focused on. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and the BAP will actively participate in the Open Finance Oversight Committee, OFAC, to ensure that all participants are held to the same high standards, not only with respect to data privacy and information security, but also in other aspects such as system resiliency and reliability and customer care and welfare, among others. Adherence to high standards by all participants will be the key to success of the Open Finance Framework. After all, a consumer will only give his consent to share his data only if he's confident that the data will be held and used with a standard of care, which ensures that the data will be used only for the purpose for which he allowed it to be shared. It will not help if he reads in the papers that his data was stolen, waylaid, or worse, misused. We have a long way to go in this open finance journey, and we have so many elements to consider very carefully. We will be better in this journey if we travel together rather than alone. We hope that our presence here today will show to all our earnest intention to work together with all current as well as potential players in the national retail payment system, as well in the soon-to-be-formed open finance ecosystem. Maraming salamat for inviting me, at I'm very optimistic that this forum is going to lead to a very important milestone in Philippine history. Mabuhay kayong lahat.
Mabuhay kayo. Para gusto ko iboto si Wick Veloso sa 2022. Maraming salamat, Sir Wick. That was our crash course immediately there in open finance. And again, one of the biggest things which I picked up from you, which was resonated across different industries, is the importance of co-opetition right now, which became very prevalent, especially during this time of the pandemic. And we'll have Boss Wick again later on with us during the panel discussion. But thanks so much for reminding us of the importance of financial inclusion and how open finance will assist that as well. In fact, we've got our friend Mark Vernon all the way from Tbilisi, Georgia, saying open finance is great payments and spending made easier with InstaPay, PesoNet, and easier APIs into banks. So for me, the next step is lending, which DEI specifically, banks and institutions can also play a big part. Boswick, many minds are blown right now and are thankful for your support behind the open finance system. So again, let's give another round of applause. Please, thank you so much for being here. Ida Tiongson, seconding the motion, excellent speech, Wick, with BAP support. Oh, the only way to go is up. Again, maraming salamat. Guys, please continue to thank Boss Wick over there in the chat box. He deserves all the thanks and all the support as we champion open finance here in the Philippines. Now, moving on with that one, it's time for us right now to have a little photo together with all of our, with Wick, with Commissioner Mon and Amor. Please join us here. And let's all give a thumbs up here right now. Let's bring Sir Wick and Commissioner Mon back here on stage as we thumbs up open finance and a great year ahead here for our friends in Digital Filipinas, in FinTech Philippines. In 3, 2, 1. And again, 3, 2, 1. Again, maraming salamat ulit, Sir Wick. And please do stay around. He's going to be part of the panel discussion. And also, if you've got any questions, if you are from the media or if you're also from a financial institution who wants to learn a bit more about what they're doing with open finance, please feel free to put your questions in our Q&A box. Ayan po, sabi ni Dodi, sabi niya, thanks, Boss Wick. Can we get a recorded copy of this after the event ends? Actually, we are live on Facebook. So right now, if you go online right now and you look at Digital Filipinas or FinTech Philippines, you can get you can already see the Facebook Live over there. It will be there forever. So you can keep on watching right now. If you go on your Facebook account and go to FinTech Philippines, you can watch this event also live, and it will be there for the time being. Again, thanks so much for participating. Now, moving on to our panel discussion, let's now all welcome the leaders of finance in the country who are joining us here right now as panelists as we champion open finance in 2022. We have our distinguished guests this afternoon, of course, the CEO of Brancas, Todd Schweitzer. Todd, thanks so much for joining us here this afternoon. Joining Todd again is our keynote speaker as well, the president of the Philippine National Bank and the Bankers Association of the Philippines, Mr. Wick Veloso. We have also Noel Santiago, Chief Digital Officer of the Bank of the Philippine Islands. Our good friend, Country Manager for the Philippines of Visa, Dan Wolbert. We also have President and CEO of GoTime, Jojo Malolos. And Lawrence Ferrer, President of Bayet Center. And of course, joining me also as well in this panel to assist me with the moderation, I have, of course, Ms. Amor Maclang joining me here as well. So if you can kindly bring us all to the front of the stage, if that's okay with our friends from the production team. Hi, Todd. Thanks so much for joining us. Can we invite the rest of our panel discussants here at the front of the stage, also along with Amor Maclang. Okay, we're waiting for, please bring Dan here as well, Lawrence and the rest. And again, the Q&A box is open for those who've got questions. And there we go. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you so much for joining us here right now. Now, thanks so much, Wick, again, for giving us at least a better context for us to begin this discussion. But if you don't mind, I'd actually like to start off with our good friend from Brancas. I want to go to Todd first, because Todd, we're coming also, we're talking about when you're listening to Wick, it's right now, it's co-opetition. It's actually us working together where we've got technology companies, which are actually financial institutions, or the other way around, no? If, and we've got some media partners here as well, and media outfits. If I was going to give a elevator pitch or a 30-second pitch of what exactly open finance is all about, what is open finance if we were trying to lamanize the discussion of open finance?
Yeah, thank you, RJ, and good afternoon to my fellow panelists. What an awesome group we have, and I'm eager to learn from all of you. Thanks for the question, RJ, and I think it's an important one to set the scene a little bit, because Open finance, I think, means many things to many people. If you're talking to the Europeans, it means a regulator mandate where banks are required to build certain technology and make certain API products available. In the Philippines, of course, it refers to the Open Finance Circular, and in general, I think what it refers to, if I can summarize it kind of in layman's terms, is it's the technologies and the products and the policies that enable customers to securely access financial services from third-party providers. So what it does is it allows for a decoupling of the financial service provider from where you actually access it, right? And it allows for a composability and a way to create financial services as building blocks. I really appreciated Sir Wick's intro remarks about how customers are the owner of their personal data. And a lot of what Open Finance enables is for customers to be able to choose how and where they access and to whom they share that data securely, whether it's for credit scoring, whether it's for financial management or a budgeting app, or whether it's for verifying their identity, right? But I also want to point out that Open Finance is much more than just data sharing, right? So we have Noel from BPI, who is, really thanks to him and his team, I can use my BPI account now to top up with basically any e-wallet or with the Bayad app, right? And it's super simple. If for anyone that's done it, it's a piece of cake. It's extremely easy compared to going to a brick and mortar payment center or even, moving to a different app to push a payment. And that's done by BPI having, yes, an authentication API that verifies that I am indeed Todd and I'm authorizing my account, as well as a payment API that allows me to send a funds transfer basically in one click using Open Finance technology, right? But it's also things like account opening, right? So in GCash, the CIMB, you can actually open a CIMB savings account inside an e-wallet app, end to end, right? And that's remarkable. And what a change from your typical branch-based paper document, certificate of employment, wait, whatever, 2 weeks for it to be processed, right? And I think the list goes on, right? We're seeing InsurTech products that are available as API. We're seeing non-bank financial services. There's a ton to do around enabling on and off ramps to some of the play to earn and crypto services as well. And so I think it's important to underline just how broad of an opportunity Open Finance is to change the way financial products are developed, because banks and FIs can now work with third-party fintechs to build new apps and products, change the way products are distributed, because you can actually embed your financial services into a third-party app. And it also changes monetization. So you can think about platform fees, you can think about a marketplace model, all these, fintech concepts that a bank or an e-wallet can make use of to unlock new revenue. But anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing from the panelists, because they're actually in the driver's seat leading a lot of these Open Finance initiatives.
Thanks so much for giving us another lowdown as well, another perspective as well as how to perceive how Open Finance works and how it really helps out broaden our financial system and our financial inclusion system here in the Philippines. And having said that, you did mention about the good work that they're doing here right now at BPI. So I want to now bring this discussion to Noel Santiago, our Chief Digital Officer of the Bank of the Philippine Islands. Now, you've been at the forefront, and I'm a very happy customer of BPI and how I've been able to use the app, especially during this pandemic of paying bills, accepting payments. Tell us just how the average Filipino has been affected by the development of the Open Finance economy, and what have been the challenges and adjustments, especially in doing this one. Let's go, Noel.
Yeah, sorry about that. When we started this 3 years ago, we didn't really envisage such a significant uptake in this open banking. At that point in time, we're starting it like an open banking framework. We have almost like zero transaction volume in 2018. No, we open up very simple requirements for allowing clients of ours to top up their toll fee wallet for both EasyTrip and AutoSweep, and said maybe we can create some convenience or make it seamless for our client to do that. No? The ability for them without getting out of their car and being able to load their wallet even before they get out of the exit, right? So we started with that, and then as we saw the uptake, and then the pandemic came, right? The pandemic came. From this small volume, uh, right now we're doing like more than 300,000 transactions a day, purely on open banking, not even an open finance yet, right? Purely from an open banking, more than 300,000 transactions a day, close to a 900 million in value, right? That's the amount of value that we create in the payment ecosystem, right? So does it create value to the bank? Yes. Does it create value to the client? The answer is yes. Plus our partners. I have partners here from Bayad Center. We have partners here from Dragon Pay. I've seen people on. We are technically connected to almost everyone. Right? We have about more than 70 partners right now. It's about 75 partners. The only thing that we're not connected to is something that is illegal, right? As long as it's legal, we're connected to them, right? That's the value of what we created in 2018. We anticipated that this is where the world is going, and we said it's time to modernize our technology stack. Let's go with it, right? We believe in the fields of dream, right? Build it and they will come, right? And that's where we are now.
And for all those listening right now, all the different partners of BPI, just give us a shout out there right now in the chat box. We want to say hi to you right now. All those working with Noel and the rest of BPI. Thanks so much for your support. Noel, just a quick follow-up question to you right now. No, as you were developing, I mean, you were surprised by, I guess, the uptake, especially during this pandemic, and I'm sure the pandemic accelerated the use of your system. But what were the inherent challenges also as well during this time? I mean, we were talking about other problems with data. You have data privacy. We've got information security. Of course, we've got the infrastructure that needs to be in place. What were the inherent challenges that you faced, and you think we will continue to face as an industry as we move forward with open finance?
Yeah. When we started this, the security framework, right? The standards is not really in place, right? We actually kickstart how partners will talk to us in a concept called OAuth, no? The authorization process, right? So we came up with such standard that allows many partners that can connect to us based on this standard, and we can validate and reconfirm the authenticity of those requests, right? We learned it along the way. When we started, we came up with a proposal. And as we venture into more and more partners, both local and international, right? We now are connected to global partners as well, internationally. And coming soon, our app would be able to be used globally, right? That is the power of the API that we created. So the learning we had in the security allowed both partners and the financial institution like BPI to talk in a certain level, right? To talk to a certain level. And in fact, Todd is also our good partner there, is also bringing in third parties and evangelizing, right? What would be a more fluent and effective way of connecting in the most efficient and secure manner, right? Is it the best? I can say we've started it. It will continue to evolve. We're seeing other institutions adopting similar concept. So the industry will just evolve.
And hopefully we're able to share what we've learned. I guess, like we said, competition here right now, what BPI has learned, hopefully it can be shared across the industry. I think it'll like a rising tide lifts all different boats, and hopefully BPI can help lead the way for that one over here. Again, thanks so much for that, Noel. And having said that, we were talking about how it affects not just the entire country as we're implementing this one. So I actually want to bring this question right now to Lawrence Ferrer of Bayad Center. I think it's very interesting, Lawrence, of as we go into open finance or even open banking, how are different financial institutions across the country really adopting this open finance economy? Like for you guys, how's it like? Because right now people look at you just as a purely payment center, or sometimes they just look at when they see your services, they don't see it as part of the whole financial institution. How are you guys integrating into open finance?
Hi, RJ, and hi to all the co-panelists and all the viewers. Well, Byte has been in the business of doing bills payment for more than 20 years. We are the dominant bills payment provider in the Philippines. And if you take a look at our business model years back, it was really anchored on over-the-counter. So we serve the unbanked population. Yeah. But lo and behold, because of the pandemic, there was a significant shift towards going online. And one of the things that I personally took charge of is really developing different digital solutions that would cater to our customers that have a need to do online payments. Because, no matter what, you still have to pay your bills. So together with the help, obviously, of some of the co-panelists I see here, like Jojo, Todd, and Noel, we launched our mobile app. And one of the services that we were able to do, which is important, is really put money into the wallet. And, I'm very thankful for the three gentlemen for being able to connect us to BPI. And our customers are fully enjoying the ability to load money. But I think more importantly for Bayad is that our core services focuses obviously on payments. Nonetheless, we see our customers having different requirements, particularly when it comes to savings, when it comes to loans, which is not part of our DNA. And our ability to be able to scale and to be able to deliver services is anchored on having these type of solutions. Because rather than build, which would be costly, it's more better to be able to connect to different partners, to different stakeholders. Banks can provide loans, the BNPL, buy now, pay later providers can effectively provide underwriting solutions to our customer base. And from one research that I took notice is that I think it's the first use case when it comes to loans is paying your bills. So we have tons of bills, particularly electric bill, that at times are being disconnected because they don't have enough financial at the point of being disconnected. So we see that by allowing ourselves to be open, allowing our system, allowing our infra to be open to different providers and exchanging those information will make better solutions for our customers. So we definitely support, and I really look forward to what we can do together as all stakeholders should be moving towards to. Thank you.
But really fantastic opportunity to work all together and see how each of our industries or each of our own companies or each of our own industries can help build the total financial ecosystem. Like Noel was just pointing out over here in the chat box, Byte is also a BPI partner here at the same time. And hopefully we get more partnerships coming out of FinTech Philippines. Speaking about partnerships and speaking about FinTech Philippines, I want to talk to one of the founding fathers here right now of FinTech here in the Philippines. And of course, I'm referring to Mr. Jojo over here, Jojo Malolos, who's one of the founding fathers of FinTech here in the Philippines and working together with GoTime, which is a digital bank of our good friends, the Gokongways. Sir Jojo, syempre, Idol, I have a question for you. What are your plans now with GoTime? I mean, it's unique and it's really perfect, I guess, really for the time. And with the new normal, digital banks have become something that's been very important to our consumers during this time. So what are your plans with GoTime, knowing that Time has had a recent capital raise with Tencent and the CDC Group? What are the plans you see moving forward, and how does it also integrate further with open finance here in the Philippines?
Thank you, RJ, and good afternoon to everybody. And wow, I mean that was a very good intro. Time, we just raised total of $180 million together with Time. The Gokongway Group is a participant of that, and that all goes well with really bringing us into the to the cusp of open finance success, which we look at as probably I don't know if you'll call it it's a blessing in disguise because the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas actually came up with all of these guidelines towards the latter part of the first year of the pandemic. And then, they decided on accepting 6 applicants, and then all of us are given 1 year to, start operations. I think to set up a digital bank in so short a time probably is founded on the fact that we're already on an open finance environment. And I think this is very, very reminiscent of what the BSP is really seriously inspired to really push through. They've opened up. I like the word used by Wick earlier, which is co-opetition, because competition and interoperability won't work, right? So as mentioned, I had a conversation with some of the BSP officials, and they were saying that probably before took them so long to break silos. It took them longer to break walls. Now we're breaking borders, right? Now we're breaking borders across in terms of bringing in innovation at a pace that's really part of the entire revolution of introducing new technology. So that is the foundation by which GoTime is working now. No? So we've been given a year to move towards launching our bank. But I think the most important aspect, and Lawrence mentioned this, the most important aspect of all of these initiatives to bring in innovation, to make sure that each of the customer is given an opportunity, to given a product that really caters to this requirement, is the main objective of central bank in coming up with this new category of a digital bank, which is to really, we have to be serious about penetrating the base of the pyramid. We really have to, go through the base of the pyramid and really bank them. And the only way we can do that is because, we've been trying to do that for decades, right? I was the CEO of Smart Money during that time. Lawrence and I were working back in 2007, 2008.
In the office po.
The obvious, yeah. We were still talking about 70% of the population being unbanked, right? It's 2021 now. We're still talking about 70% of the population being unbanked, right? So probably the BSP right now is really serious about doing that. And I think Open Finance will cater to this and will support this interoperability across customers and their needs. Imagine giving loans to farmers, without having to, by just allowing them, by getting their consent to give out their data, you'll be able to craft loans specifically for their needs. What loan percentage are they capable of paying it? When do they need it? When they can pay it? I think these are the types of innovations that are necessary to make Open Finance work. And as Todd mentioned earlier, there's a lot of APIs now that allows you to connect to this really, really, awesome, fantastic innovations. Imagine, I don't know if in the Philippines, we already are lending money by the use of information on how they use their phones. Yeah, these people have thin files, no files at all about how they credit worthiness, no files. But we're able to give them notes because they spend 2 hours a week using their phones, or maybe 11 hours a day using the social media. So this is the foundation of what we work on in GoTime in terms of identifying what are the products and services that we need to bring to the market. But like any other starting bank, of course, we need to contend with the reality that we have to launch it first, right? We need to look for customers who will be able to get full use of our products and services. And the GoHomeWay Group ecosystem plays a big role in this, right? We have an airline business, we have a retail business, we have a property development that allows us to immediately take a look at who the probable customers that we can have. And data becomes very, very important to this, because using this data and in the confines of an open finance framework, we're able to identify customers who would most likely be our first customers to really experience the power of digital banking and the differentiated power of digital banking. So we're there now. We're very happy to update everybody that we're on track. There was an announcement earlier about Tencent participating in the organization to support us in moving forward. Part of that is supporting what we do in GoTime. So, we're very, very robust in our plans, and we are very excited about what this new infrastructure, new category will bring to the Philippine economy in general.
And we're very excited here as well to support GoTime. At the same time, I want to go now to Dan, because this is a very interesting topic. And for Dan, especially for you, and given, well, number one, the credit card penetration in the country is still very, very low. And of course, we want to be able to increase credit card penetration to be able to help build both open finance and open credit here in the Philippines. What issues do you see that you're encountering right now in terms of, I guess, data privacy and information security, especially given the more transparent aspects of open finance?
Thanks, RJ. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and great to see all the co-panelists today. So, in terms of data privacy, and when we think of open finance, open banking, one of the critical areas is really around enabling public trust to handle and use important financial data. It necessitates a commitment to privacy, security, and transparency for all consumers who participate in the ecosystem. There are really four critical areas that we think of when thinking about data privacy as it relates to open finance, and it's really around consumer empowerment, as Sir Wick mentioned in the keynote. So it's about consumer empowerment with the information to make informed decisions based on transparency. And there are four areas that we like to focus on, which is one, transparency into the data that they are sharing. Two, transparency in terms of who may use that data. Three, for what purposes that the data may be used, and for however long the data may be used. So consumers should be given an option to be able to revoke their data permissions. And then four, it's how they manage their data sharing preferences. So consumer trust and informed decision-making are critical and will be fundamental to widespread adoption of open banking and data sharing products here in the Philippines. And one of the key areas is ensuring we have a robust consent framework that will allow the industry to navigate that data privacy effectively. So areas such as partnering with the OFAC, which we'll be hearing from shortly, but really bringing the industry together to be able to align on an industry-driven approach on this, we think will be important for success in this space.
Thanks so much. Really, really great perspectives we're getting here right now. And hopefully, we get all the different financial institution perspectives, so we're able to really move forward with open finance here in the Philippines. Speaking of that, I understand, we're actually in a panel of financial institution experts, and many of us, we have to actually translate the meaning of what open finance is, because it's a very broad and technical topic, and we need to educate the normal Filipino to, there's so many issues they have there. First of all, getting banked is a big issue. After getting banked, how do you explain something like open finance to them, and why it benefits them? What are going to be our I guess what are going to be our initiatives to make sure that we're able to bring the benefits of open finance and explain that to the regular Filipino who isn't even banked right now, or is just doing banking right now as one of their options?
Hi, RJ. I think if there's one thing that we need to remember in all of this is, how do we make banks visually disappear? Okay, it's not about making banking disappear, but rather the experience has to be embedded and it has to be seamless, right? So, like, for example, if you're checking out and you wanted to buy or pay, that's really the intent. And it's not just for banking. The implications here cut across other financial services, like, for example, insurance. It's not, Todd was citing an example over lunch about how, travel insurance upon checkout, it's already there. So that's the kind of embeddedness that we're all working towards. And you know what? None of us here understands TCP/IP, right? But we all understand, but we all use email. So you don't necessarily have to understand blockchain to understand that, the technologies that will make all of these happen. But I think what's important for us to know is that the technologies are something that you can trust, And because it's under the ambit of regulatory bodies like the Banco Central, the NPC, MAS, I'm telling you, RJ, I told you this at the beginning. When Mon Libora said he was a regulator, I always chide him for saying that, because he is more of an enabler than a regulator. Now, maybe something that you want to raise is the fact that please don't use the regulators as an excuse for not teching up, right? So I was having lunch with Commissioner Mon, and I said, "Sir, your name is being taken in vain, right? The NPC's name is being taken in vain. Many of the institutions who refuse to tech up actually use you as an excuse for not doing so. While on the contrary, he's actually super supportive of sandboxing. I mean, he's the one who's actually initiating a sandbox that cuts across various national line agencies. So I don't know. We can go on all day, RJ. I'm telling you, there's never been a better time to be in financial services, to be in technology, and to be Filipino. Even Todd here, if you cut him, he'll cry aray.
Thanks so much, Amor. And having said that, no, I'm glad we were able to speak to all of our different panelists at this point. Now, I'd like to ask just a few questions as we start to wrap up this panel here today. And some questions come from our friends in the media. One of the questions I first want to ask is from Edgar Hilario. And it's a very interesting question, and I think many of us have actually addressed it throughout the course of this discussion. But he's asking how, in an open finance environment, how can we help the country's business or economic sector during this pandemic? Of course, we can see how all the different payment solutions have helped us in this pandemic, but maybe somebody would like to help concretize a couple of things of how open finance is helping things right now during this pandemic. Who would like to give an example? Noel?
Can I extend that? No, I think it's not just during this pandemic. Open finance creates a whole new way of us being able to develop products and price it accordingly, right? For example, when you're doing a lending product, you typically would create a product that you will be priced based on the risk, that the credit risk that you're undertaking, right? The undertaking risk will be priced together with that product, and because the data that you have may not be as rich and as intensive as what other platform has, you tend to look at that like an insurance, like an actuarial, right? You price it, some will go bad, some will be good, and therefore you take the good and the bad and you price it accordingly. However, with the open finance framework that allows you to tap to rich data from various sources, I can now price it effectively to the specific individual, right? I can manage my credit risk effectively and therefore be able to lend to people that's worth the lending to. And lending creates economic activity because it funds the payment, it funds the business, etc., right? So this is where the cost sharing of the data becomes very critical to the economic growth of the country.
Thanks so much. Does anybody want to extend that discussion, because it's very interesting right now to see, where open finance is taking us. It's just that I guess more during the situation, open finance and the benefits of what we're doing is being highlighted by this pandemic. But there may be solutions coming out of it at the same time. Please, if anybody wants to jump in, George or Dan, Lawrence.
George. I think to support Noel's perspective, he talked about 300,000 transactions a day, 1 billion, almost a billion pesos of transaction. If that doesn't help the economy, if you're able to increase it, if that doesn't help the economy, I don't know what will, right? So this is a classic case. And I was running a fintech out of Cambodia, and I have about 7 million customers. It's a hybrid open platform, open finance type, but they go to agents and pay. I have 7 million doing transactions that are equivalent to about $25 billion. And the GDP of Cambodia is $21 billion. So that was a very, very important proof that these types of innovations, if you get it to be used by consumers, will really contribute to the GDP of the country. It creates new jobs, it creates new value. So I think we don't have any way but to really use this, because this is our biggest shot at helping BSP and the government achieve what they've always wanted, which is use innovation to improve the economy. Maybe in 5 years' time, we will not be an emerging market already. Probably we will be, developing. And I think that should be the objective. That should be the objective of everybody. That's why we in the digital banking space, or even in the fintech space, are open to this co-opetition, because, we cannot do it on our own, right? So, people like Todd, who basically opens it up to all of the innovations through APIs, this is the way to go. I think we have to really fully support this, and it's not just a bright idea coming from the BSP or anybody else,
That's
but
right.
it is really something we really need to do.
Thanks so much. And then just to wrap up this panel discussion, so many great questions coming out. I'm sorry we couldn't tackle them all, no? Amor, because right now people are listening to us from I guess different levels. Some are financial institutions who are ready to take on open finance. Some are just starting off, don't know where to start. Some are non-banking institutions who are here as well, something like a Buy It Center or Visa. Where can they approach to, I guess, get their foot in the door when it comes to the open finance and learning a bit more of how to bring those systems into their own, the technology into their own systems? I guess, Todd, could you help them out for that one?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, I think that the benefit here is that Philippines is not the first country to start undertaking open finance. And in fact, we now have entering the 4th year of implementation of open banking out of Europe. Now, of course, a country like the UK has a very different profile and a different financial services sector than the Philippines. However, we have the benefit of hindsight of seeing what the UK or continental Europe did well and what they didn't do well, some of the successful products that have emerged now that there's an open banking layer. And so I think one of the best areas we can look is at markets that already have some years of lessons learned, good and bad, and applying some of those into a country like the Philippines that has really fundamental financial services gaps. As Jojo pointed out, 50% of the adult population is still unbanked, right? There is, generally speaking, lack of access to reliable credit scoring, as Noel pointed out. So the ability to very quickly and reliably share data that can score me as a customer, whether I'm applying for a Visa credit card or whether I'm applying for a loan at GoTime when they launch soon, will speed up my ability, whether I'm getting a consumer loan for a vehicle or for repairs on my house, or whether I'm a small business and I need a line of credit, right? There's a lot of improvement to be done in speeding up the time to access and the ability to access financial services, and we can look to other countries for some inspiration there.
Not bad. Thank you so much. So again, no, if you're all part of FinTech Philippines and Digital Filipinas, we're here to support you. This is an ecosystem we're building. Again, the key word we've learned from Vic Veloso is co-opetition. So we're here to help bring up all the boats, literally, all our boats here as there's a rising tide in the Philippine fintech system. And with that, thank you so much to all of our panelists.
RJ,
Yes, Amor.
sorry, before we wrap up, I'd like to invite everyone to take our Web 3.0 course. If you are a member of FinTech Philippines Association in good standing, you can be a scholar, just approach us. And this gives you the fundamental of decentralize everything. So Mark Vernon was talking about DeFi, right? You'll hear more of that. Understand what it can do for you, whether you're an academic, someone who's dabbling, or if you're in the financial services institution. We have scholarships for that. That's with the NUS and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, if you're a member of FinTech Philippines Association.
Thanks so much, Amor. And Amor, can you also please put that in the chat box as well so people will know where to apply? There's a link that they can use. Please put that in the chat box. And having said that, can we just ask for a photo opportunity with all of our panelists here right now? Put on your big smiles. At least we don't have to wear face masks as we do our virtual photo op. Again, thanks so much for joining us, guys. All thumbs up for FinTech Philippines. Thumbs up. Thanks so much. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Again, 3, 2, 1. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love the comments there in the chat box from Albert Solante. Impressive topic. They really enjoyed the insights that we've been gaining over here. So again, if you enjoyed what people were sharing over here, please do thank all of our panelists. Give them a virtual round of applause. Comment on what you enjoyed the most about hearing from them. Again, gentlemen and Amor, thank you so much for joining us. And with that, let's move on quickly to the next portion of our discussion. And thanks to all the panelists. Now, as we move on, as you know, it seems to be a very exciting time to be in the finance and the fintech industry and to be on the cusp of the country moving forward to a more open and digital economy. Now, with that, let's move on to the next part of the discussion and welcome back Todd Schweitzer, our CEO of Brancas, to give us his insights on the Open Finance Oversight Committee, as they were saying, the OFOC, Open Finance, and the potential it will bring to companies here in the Philippines. Also, to further our discussion on these topics, let's also welcome our panelists. We have the co-convener of Digital Pilipinas and trustee of the FinTech Philippines Association, Ms. Ida Tiongson, joined by the managing partner of Goriseta Law and the co-convener of Digital Pilipinas and a trustee of the association, Attorney Mark Goriseta. We also have Jove Tapiador, co-founder and trustee of the FinTech Philippines Association, and Edison Tsai, partner and executive director of Seeding Technology and a trustee of the FinTech Philippines Association. With that, Todd, the floor is yours for our presentation.
Great, thank you, everyone, and very nice to meet you all. I think the purpose here is really to learn from my fellow panelists on what the purpose is for the Open Finance Oversight Committee, what is the progress so far, and so eager to learn from Ms. Ida and Attorney Mark and the rest of the panelists. I'll just say that I know I'm jumping from one panel to another, but for this panel, I'm actually representing Open Banking Exchange. So Open Banking Exchange is an industry group for open finance that came out of Europe in the open banking regime in 2018, 2019. And it was really an industry group formed to set industry standards, technical guidelines, even do things like technical security certifications to know that to verify whether the data providers, the data recipients, or the third-party providers that are supporting the APIs to facilitate this are passing certain IT security requirements. And so Open Banking Exchange was formed to really facilitate that industry discussion. And since then, they have expanded and brought this playbook to other markets. And so I'm happy to say that I've taken the role of director for Open Banking Exchange Asia. We had our kickoff event last week, and OBE Asia is really meant to bring together a regional body of open finance regulators, financial institutions, and industry participants to share best practices, learn from one another, and start to develop some industry standards by which we can inform the public sector and other stakeholders about what the right kind of rules of the road are, right? So happy to be taking that role. But today, really, the session is for Ms. Ida and for Attorney Mark to share their feedback on the early days of the Open Finance Oversight Committee and how we can advance that. So looking forward to hearing from them.
Again, thanks so much for that brief overview, Todd, and really for spearheading all the efforts to support the growth of fintech here in the Philippines and the open finance as well. So can we please bring on the front of the stage, can we have Attorney Mark Goriseta together with Ms. Ida Tiong so that they can bring us to the center of the stage? And can I also have as well, Edison, please join us as well. Edison Tsai, if you can join us here also at the front. And with Mr. Jove Tapiador, if you can all have them here at the front of the stage. I love it, all looking very dapper. Attorney Mark, when I look at you, I think of you, suit on top, but shorts at the bottom. Sorry for saying that, but that's really how we do work from home nowadays. No, but
he's always best dressed.
Always best dressed over here for all of us. Hi, Ms. Ida. I hope you guys don't mind if I start off with asking Attorney Mark a couple of questions because I understand he's a bit pressed for time. But Attorney Mark, just for those who might not understand just yet, especially to our friends from the media and for the first timers listening to a discussion of FinTech Philippines, what exactly is the Open Finance Oversight Committee, or the OFOC, and why is it very important for us in creating an open finance ecosystem here in the Philippines?
Yeah, thanks RJ. Nice to see you here. Also nice to see Todd.
my client for Brancas, and of course my fellow trustees in FinTech Philippines Association, Ed and Joe and Ida, and our executive director Amor is here, and our fellow trustee Mark Vernon as well. So probably RJ, let me start. Like OFOC, as mentioned, Open Finance Oversight Committee. It was formed. We had our first kickoff meeting. I think Ida, correct me if I'm wrong. Be ready to chime in. 2-3 weeks ago, we have been meeting weekly with the World Bank and the IFC, or in the International Finance Corporation, which is under the World Bank's group. Basically, the purpose of the OFOC is for us. It will be the transition group, or the group that will lead the implementation of initiatory and transition-related activities pertaining to the establishment of a formal OFOC structure, and to formulate policies pertaining to open finance. I'd like to thank actually Ida and I would like to thank actually our colleagues in the FinTech Philippines Association, and also in the FinTech Alliance Association as well, for voting or recognizing us, for allowing us to represent both industries, to be the representatives of the fintech industry in the OFOC. Just to give you an idea, RJ, again, as mentioned, this is being led by the BSP, or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, assisted by the World Bank, and together with the IFC. And it is composed of 7 members. There are primary and alternate members. There are representatives from all banking sectors: universal banks, thrift banks, rural banks, digital banks, electronic money issuers, and operator payment systems, and last but not least, of course, the fintech industry. So very important in formulating policies. Ida, you should.
Yeah, and RJ, this is actually in line with the BSP's transformational or digital transformation roadmap, where they're looking at a 70% financial inclusion. You mentioned earlier on, by the way, that's a very great discussions earlier on, no? You mentioned about the 50%, actually it's 30 going to 50, and then 50 going to 70 in terms of having financial inclusion. So that's part of the roadmap, as well as 50% digital payments to retail. So we're doing double digit at the moment, and 50% is a little bit far off, but with open finance, that should leapfrog and be able to reach that 50%. So as mentioned by Attorney Mark, earlier on, we have a representative from the banks, from the BAP, BPI. Right. We got their Bayad Center, operators of payment systems. So we even had Visa, as well as Digital Bank, which is represented by Jojo GoTime. So the composition of OFOC is the reason why there's an OFOC with this BSP-led project, is because there's a need to involve the stakeholders to be able to actually push it. And since this is now BSP-led, I know my colleagues here in FinTech PH, Jove, Edison, Mark, especially Amor, and most particularly Mark Vernon, you know, we've been pushing about this, the usage of API, the open, starting with open banking, and then the bigger circle, of course, open banking is within the banks. Open finance is opening it up to financial institutions, not just banking. Now it's called open finance. You know, we've been talking about this since what, 2018? And Jove in our team actually presented a sandbox. But now it's actually them pushing this, and you know, this is very welcome, because we know that this time around, only way to go, but you know, success on this project.
That's right. And you know, I think one of the nice things that right now, as we've got different, like you said, stakeholders and players coming in over here now, is that we need to better also appreciate and understand that further down the line, what are the possible benefits we see for different companies, for different startups, for different fintech companies, knowing that regulation is being built for such open financial systems. Maybe, Jove, you can help us better understand how it's going to be benefiting more companies, more fintech companies down the line, as we help with the finance oversight, and also developing better regulations for them at the same time.
Sure, RJ. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, am I clear? Good. The key here is to unlock data. That data allows the creative use of that information to build innovative products, more inclusive products, more groundbreaking financial services. And I think that's what the vision of the regulator is, so that we are able to reach beyond the existing bank market and go beyond to the underbanked market. So that's the only way. If we are able to share data, to cooperate with each other, to solve the problems together of how we can onboard millions of Filipinos that have yet to experience what we're experiencing now in banking services, then that's important. So those are the key benefits of trickling down that innovation to the mass market.
Echoing actually what Noel Santiago was saying earlier on in his presentation as well, no? And having said that, Joe, I don't mind if you dive a bit deeper. Let's say, for example, how's the application of going to the unbanked with all these regulations here? Maybe for those who are unbanked right now, how can they start? How can Open Finance really help them?
Very good question, RJ. I'm just going to change my background a bit.
No problem, no problem. There we go.
So you see here, I'm in Negros right now.
There you go.
I'm in a third-class city. I'm in a heritage town called Silay. We're here. You guys are in Manila, talking about Open Finance. So I'm with the Rural Bank, exactly trying to figure out how to bring in more of these people into the banking system. Open Finance is great, but we need data on their side. Like many of the panelists have already mentioned, and even Todd pointed out, how do we capture data to create the proper credit score, have a better profile of the customers to fine-tune the financial products that we will offer. In fact, tomorrow we will have a campaign to onboard a dozen or so micro enterprises. So the challenge is, how can we take care of that trust represented by giving personal information so that it is taken care of by banks, rural banks, community banks, NGOs, even fintechs that are reaching out to the mass market, and translate that into more efficient services, into products that meet their requirements for livelihood, for their businesses, to allow them to earn more, to access, say, credit so that they can bridge financing gaps. Those are practical questions that we need to answer. Hopefully Open Finance, the regime for Open Finance allows for that information to be sliced, diced, analyzed, and translated into tangible products and services that meet their everyday requirements.
RJ, RJ,
please, Mark, attorney. Go ahead.
Sir. Like, yeah, so just to add to Job, Job and I have been working with that rural bank and how to digitalize that rural bank. But basically, I think the main challenge really that prevent the traditional finance industry from fully servicing the underserved and unbanked sectors is really access and availability of personal and financial data. So I guess this can, for me, this can easily be solved by fintech companies, as these fintechs can offer their products and products across mobile and internet platforms, as we all know, which are more accessible than physical facilities, diba, RJ?
That's right.
Of course,
exactly.
the next question is, if these target customers, the underserved and unbanked sectors, have the necessary personal and financial data to be able to qualify and avail of these products, right? So for me, this is where Open Finance and the OFOC comes in, by allowing these sectors to leverage their existing data from traditional sources, say from a cooperative or a rural bank, like where Job is, or even use new modes of customer verifications, like the PhilSys ID, the national ID, to be able to avail of these new fintech products and sources. So just trying to really relate the purpose of Open Finance with, of course, our stakeholders in the fintech industry, and how the OFOC, or where Ida and I can come in, of course, with the help of experts like Todd here.
Yeah. And please go ahead. Yes.
Sorry, I wanted to chime in on that one because I have a classic example, which is my two yayas. No, one yaya opened an account. It's a wallet, and the other one prefers cash. Within 6 months, the one who opened the wallet got a small loan, and on the first year, she was able to get a bigger loan, and she was able to buy a land which is being used
Wow.
for farming. So when you're talking, that's a small part of it. But when you're talking about open finance, where your information can get into a third party, and you're trying to get a loan because it's a lower rate, but they don't know you. But with open finance, you would be able to actually give them the access to your information available all around you, and with all this data, you can get a loan fairly quickly. So if you're looking at the essence of financial inclusion, you're able to bank with only one identification, could be the Philsys ID, and then you would be able to get access to financial products. And one of them is, of course, lending. And that will mean, growth of businesses.
Yeah. That really resonates with me when you're talking about the yayas, because that's one of the best situations for the underbanked where we don't see, but it's a pain point that we're able to address. It's so wonderful that you were bringing that up. In fact, when Jovi was showing me Silay, I felt very, I'm from Silay. My ancestral home is Silay, and we both Ilonggo here. Attorney Mark and Joe are all Ilonggo over here. So something that really resonates with us to help really the underbanked in those areas, and to help our yayas, our drivers, people who really need to be unbanked and eventually buy their own piece of land over there in their hometown. Now, we were earlier speaking about fintechs, right? And how fintechs are really going to be helping create products and services that help the underbanked or the underserved. So I think the next question is quite appropriate to bring to Edison here right now, because Edison, as somebody who runs CDIN, you've known the challenges and the dilemmas that many small fintech companies are facing when it comes to regulation. What are the challenges you're facing? But what do you also see the opportunities that can arise with better regulation for open finance and for fintech companies like yourself?
Thank you, RJ, and good afternoon to my fellow trustee members, as panelists, and everyone in attendance for today's event. So, you're right, RJ. The challenges for fintech companies to incorporate their services and solutions, and as well as promoting it to the public, is really a challenge, especially when regulators there are rules that have to be followed. So open finance really opens doors not only for the general public, but really also for the solutions providers, as it caters on I would say it caters on the main pillars for open finance. Is one, the open finance standards, so that allows various factors like the fintech industry's level of readiness to agree on a certain standard, as well as through the implementation of an open API. So the public API that, as we have discussed earlier, it allows different parties to link their data together, and as well as being able to communicate with an open readiness for regulators to look into. So the open data, which is another pillar for open finance, is the public obtainable data that is published by the participants. Mm-hmm. And last but not least is the open access that allows authorized third parties to access consented data without needing to establish a business relationship with the open data API provider. So through these participation, we are able to establish a groundwork wherein fintech companies like CDIN is able to go to market faster, as well as having a standard that allows interoperability. And as the resounding messages as we have throughout this afternoon is, it's really about openness as well as co-opetition, right? So these are the things that we felt as a fintech company in that have a presence in other countries as well. Philippines is really progressing on that area, and I think our fellow panelists can resound to that as well.
That's right. And having said that, it's very interesting. I want to go back to Todd. And earlier on, Todd, you were saying that you're looking at other countries which also have the same sort of oversight committees, no? And you're seeing the different examples of what's went wrong, what went well, what didn't go too well in other countries as well. So given that, what do you see the trajectory of us having an oversight committee? Where do you think, what are the best practices we can take, and where do you think will be how the oversight committee will help further improve open finance here in the Philippines?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. so first of all, I am not the. There are many examples of kind of open banking regimes, and there are many flavors of how open banking, open finance is developed. I will say, sincerely, the Philippines is taking, and the Philippine government is taking, what I think is a very healthy and balanced approach to open finance, which means it is not a top-down ivory tower regulators cooking up an agenda and then announcing it out of the blue, right? Nor is it a free-for-all kind of commercially led, because of course, typically from the industry side, you would like to have a free-for-all, but the challenge there is regulated financial institutions want to at least know what the guardrails are, so that they can participate in open finance products and solutions without, frankly speaking, their compliance teams needing to worry about backtracking, right? So I think what the BSP has done, and I just have a limited view, a little bit of other markets, and then a bit closer in other Southeast Asia markets where Brancas operates. I think the Philippines, what at least the approach I see is setting guidelines about what are some basic technical and operational standards that participants need to follow, encouraging FIs that want to get a step ahead to participate in pilots and sandboxes and kind of industry initiatives that Edison mentioned, and then forming an industry stakeholder group, e.g. the OFAC, to inform a roadmap of regulations. That to me is super sensible. Super sensible, because on the extremes you have top down to the surprise of everyone, and everyone scrambles, their head runs off and it scrambles around and tries to figure out who are the winners and losers, right? And on the other side you have kind of open, unregulated chaos. And I don't mean chaos in the pejorative sense. Chaos is sometimes great for business disruption, but it does give it doesn't give necessarily enough comfort to the incumbents to actually participate. And so they may stand on the sidelines longer than they probably should. So anyway, long story short, I think the approach is very balanced. I think the fact that, and we have the composition of OFAC, I think is quite balanced, and we have fantastic representation, not just from large banks, but all the way to the non-bank FIs and the fintech representatives by Ms. Ida and Mark. So I'm really encouraged, and I use the example of the Philippines when talking to and sharing experiences with regulators in Thailand, Indonesia, and even Singapore, because I think it's a great balance of industry initiative and regulatory guidance.
Well, bravo, Attorney Mark and Ms. Ida. And having said that, what I want to just go a bit further with the discussion, when we look at OFAC, I mean, one of the things that people are looking at in open finance really is that how do you make sure that, I guess, what are the guardrails? What are we doing to make sure that the entire system, especially here in the Philippines, is, I guess, most importantly for us, corruption-free or exploitation-free, or not doesn't become a place where a lot of finance-related crimes can be done. How does the OFAC sort of oversee that, or manage across these type of abuses of the open finance system? Ms. Ida, please go ahead.
Okay,
please.
all right. Well, in the first place, there's no such thing as eradicating the corruption and all these crimes. In fact, the more that you're into space, a different type of crimes, cyber crooks, they come in and they change. So the difference between not necessarily open finance, but when you are in a digital space, that in itself, when it comes to governance, it's the proper information in. It's lack of a better word, you can be distinguished more than a manual fake identification. So it can lessen in terms of the fraud, identity fraud, and all of that stuff. Expanding and having all this data in this space. And remember that this is with consent. So you can then limit, and you would be able to, like now, when someone's accessing to your account, you get a notification straight away. We can expand that further with all of this technology. And again, that would reduce dramatically, in my opinion, the crimes that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Mark,
yeah, for me, I guess, Well, in my opinion, well, as a lawyer, I think the Philippines, we have always had robust laws already and regulations in terms of anti-corruption, anti-money laundering, and the prevention of or punishment of like finance-related crimes. Of course, as we all know, the question is really in its implementation, no? Which can be, for me, be strengthened by open finance and by leveraging financial data. So with open finance, in addition to regulators like the Central Bank, SEC, Anti-Money Laundering Council, National Privacy Commission, our NBI, which regulate these activities, the industry actually can also use shared data between their customer to monitor these kinds of crimes simultaneously and in real time across all open finance technology participants. So certainly this should be well balanced with data privacy and other constitutionally guaranteed rights. So yeah, this will hopefully and probably benefit everyone.
Okay.
Implemented properly. But probably also, RJ, if I just could go back with what Todd stated earlier, while it is also the aim of course, the OFOC and the BSP to adopt global best practices pertaining to open finance, such as the revised payment services directive of the EU and other standards, right, Todd? Like in the United Kingdom, we were Ida and I were asked to check again the EU best practices, United in UK, even in India, Indonesia, Singapore. But in our dialogues with the IFC and World Bank, they really want to understand, Ida, right, and probably Todd will agree, how it would, there's no one size fits all. In other words, they really want to understand how it could benefit, what's the landscape in the Philippines, and probably they're really taking time to get my inputs with Ida on how this could benefit the stakeholders, especially the fintech players in the Philippines. So yeah, we really the goal here creates a holistic, a realistic, and collaborative environment to have an open finance framework here in the Philippines.
Thanks so much, Attorney Mark. And as we start to wrap up this panel discussion, you know what? For many people, they're encountering. I mean, as Edison speaks, as Jove speaks, it's bursting with opportunities that people didn't realize were present before. But now, with the open finance framework, with our interoperability, things are opening up in terms of opportunities. So I just wanted to ask, just briefly, what are the opportunities that people might not see right now that are going to be opening up as a result of the open finance ecosystem and because of OFOC? What should businesses, fintech companies, what should banks be looking into? What should fintech companies be looking into? What companies be looking into right now as opportunities emerge? What are you seeing, Jove?
Yeah, RJ, I think beyond banking and financial services, we will see now the emergence of non-bank players, non-fintechs, taking advantage of an open finance regime that will provide them with, that will allow them to offer financial services for their own end customers. It's what like Andreessen Horowitz said, or Angela Strange said, every company will now be a fintech company. And the way to do that is to have data on their hands and craft the necessary financial products within their customer base. So that's something that non-banks, non-financial services companies will have great access to, have an opportunity to double, triple their bottom line and provide superior services.
Thanks so much, Jove Tapidor. Edison, what are the opportunities emerging that you're seeing that the people can leverage right now, or institutions can leverage?
Definitely. To also resonate, add on to the earlier points of my fellow panelists. The open finance is all about opening the financial data, right? So through that openness, it's about empowerment, and it achieves two main results. The first result is to empower consumers by giving them better control over their personal and financial data. And that, in effect, allows the empowerment of financial providers, third-party providers, to better create services, solutions and services that are more catered to the consumer needs. So through this open finance initiative, which is great because it is promoted and regulated, the progressiveness of an acceleration of financial adaptability will be greatly enhanced. And we have seen this in other countries as well. And for finance and fintech providers, they will be able to really create products that are bespoke, as well as subscribe customer centric, because now we have we're able to have a more holistic approach, as well as specific data points that are relevant to create those solutions. And that is what we're seeing, as well as the main purpose of the association is to help companies tech up, at the same time educating and promoting the financial inclusivity to the general public.
Thanks so much, Edison. And with that, I want to go back to Todd over here. And what do you think of the opportunities that that people can start taking advantage of as the open finance economy grows here in the Philippines, like you've seen also in other countries?
Yeah. So a couple quick things. Number one is, so I agree with Edison. It's mostly about opening up data, but I think it's important to recognize that open finance unlocks more than just data sharing. It unlocks things like payment initiation, account opening, the ability to access retail investments so that you can access basic investment products and wealth management products through a third-party source. So it actually does a lot more than being able to share my transactional data from the bank, for example. Number two is, and I'm really speaking to the financial institutions, it allows the financial institutions to partner with fintechs on product development and distribution so that they don't need to build everything themselves. There's a real friction right now in the industry because banks are, as they're digitally transforming, I think there's a lot of headache around, okay, now as a bank, we have to build this whole ecosystem of apps. We need to build all these consumer and SME digital products, but that's not bread and butter of a bank. And of course, they can hire a vendor to build an app, right? But if this is a core part of the business moving forward, there needs to be a partnership model that's a little bit more modern than simply, commission a vendor to build you a box and then deliver the box and maintain the box, right? And the way you do that is providing an API for authenticating and verifying a customer, for allowing that customer to make payments, to onboard to a new account, to service their account through a third-party app. And in that third-party app, of course, after they've gone through vetting from the bank and all that, can have access to these APIs and then can start to do account origination, customer acquisition, servicing on behalf of the bank. So it allows for decoupling of the institution from how the customer of that institution is digitally accessed.
Mm-hmm. Got that. Thanks so much, Todd. And finally, to round things out, what opportunities are you seeing as well, Ms. Ida and of course, Attorney Mark?
Yeah, lots. At this point, it's hard to think about. It seems kind of limitless at this point. No? So we're talking about initially open banking, and then now open finance, and then later on the open data, where you have, as mentioned by Todd, the healthcare, retail, utility, telco, and all of that, all interconnected. With that, it's creating transparency, it's creating accountability, discipline to our consumers, because you have to ensure that you're kind of paying on time, so you have good credit score and that sort of thing. It builds integrity to the system as well. Those things that I mentioned are automatic governance related. So with that, it's a step forward in having not just the consumer, not just the businesses, but the country stepping up, and big opportunity for the Philippines.
Thanks so much, Ms. Eden. Finally, Attorney Mark, time for you to round up this discussion.
Yeah, so RJ, I really think that with open finance, if we really be able to implement this open finance framework, this will force everyone to collaborate really. And again, this open finance matter or framework is really aligned. This is still within BSP's digital payments transformation roadmap, right? So it's still within that same line, that same direction of the BSP, wherein they intend, or the purpose of that is really to strengthen customers' preference to digital payments and really encourage more innovative and responsive digital financial services in the entire country. So I think that wraps up the entire open finance framework, and for everyone to understand how this will benefit us if everyone, all of the stakeholders gather all together and be able to really use this data responsibly, and of course, while so sensitive, to be able to benefit everyone in this country.
And having said that, Attorney Mark, it's really, in the end, what open finance really is, it's a disruptive technology to the finance sector. And that's why it's quite appropriate as I end this panel. Noel Santiago from our previous panel says that open finance, it has both opportunities and threats for the incumbent banks. It will challenge the basic intermediation business. And I think that's really what's going to be happening right now. So there will be opportunities and threats. Will we be the ones disrupted, or will we be the disruptors? Because open finance will not only address financial inclusion, but the data inclusion challenges of the underbanked and the unbanked sector. And with that, what a wonderful way to end this session. It opens more doors right now for all of us and expands our minds. What a great way to begin 2022. And with that, can you please have a nice one photo opportunity with all of us here in the panel. Guys, smile please for the photo. Thumbs up for open finance in 2022. In 3, 2, 1. Again, in 3, 2, 1. Again, thanks so much, gentlemen, ladies,
thank you
for joining us here in this panel. It has been truly enlightening for us and for all those listening to this panel here at the same time. If we can, before we close, I would like to invite everyone, especially Edison Tsai, to share information on FinTech Philippines Association and what we can look forward to in 2022. Edison, please share with us.
Thank you, RJ. I will wear my other hat, which is the chair for membership committee. And what an exciting time to be in, and especially with the government's drive for open finance, which is the resounding topic we have today. For the FinTech Philippine Association, which is at the center of this movement, we really encourage everyone to join this movement, being the largest trade association for tech-based companies. We offer exciting programs, and we do look forward for next year, as we have a lot of things that are aligned, especially on the progressiveness in line with open finance. So next slide, please. So we do have we offer two main memberships. We have the advisory membership, and as well as next slide, the corporate premium membership. So for those who are interested to join us, please, I have also the last slide, which is you can email as your intention. I will leave here my email address as well. Last slide. Okay. All right. So as for the membership, we have other membership options, including individual memberships and even student membership. So please do drop us an email. I leave my email address, and we look forward to everyone joining the FinTech Philippine Association and really create something special, as well as being progressive for the Philippines as we move forward together. Thank you.
And thank you as well, Edison. Looking forward to having more members joining us here right now in FinTech Philippines. And again, I just want to read some comments here in the chat box. A lot of very happy people. Amazing discussion as per Haji Gantuanco. And from Elros Pang, thanks to all the panelists, especially people who work tirelessly to ignite the ecosystem here in the Philippines. So again, let's all give a virtual round of applause, please, to all the panelists. Please thank them here in the chat box for us. Thank you so much for sharing all your great insights with us as we move forward with open finance in 2022. And before we close out with today's event, may I please invite back here on stage our trustee Jove Tapiador for a few words.
Yeah, thank you, RJ. This is just going to be brief, and I know everyone wants to proceed with the next discussions. But distinguished members and partners of FinTech Philippines Association, thank you for joining us in this event that caps a year of challenges, a year of opportunities, from the pandemic to the hastening of digitalization, and a successful hosting the World FinTech Festival locally. It's a banner year also for Open Finance. But also thank you to the BSP and the Open Finance Oversight Committee, other local champions of Open Finance, and stakeholders in government, in banking, in FinTech, and insurance. I'd just like to share one personal story. Now, when we were supporting BSP's Open Finance Trust last 2019, we did not realize how fast and how far this will come in just a couple of years. And one thing that struck me, and which was confirmed by many panelists here, or even the global thought leaders, is that the Philippines is really ahead in the game in terms of thinking things through in open finance in a structured, collaborative way. Back then in 2019, open banking was the flavor of the month in Europe. But 2019 was also the year that the Philippines was already thinking beyond open banking and into open finance to include not just banking, but insurance and other financial services. So coupled with the work on the National Retail Payment System, which laid the foundation for interoperability in the banking sector, and now with open finance, I'm quite optimistic that the future is indeed digital, and it's particularly particularly strong in digital financial services. So now in the next couple of years is a great time to be here in this industry, and FinTech Philippines is your ideal partner to make this ecosystem prosper, not just locally, but globally. Thank you.
Again, salamat Gil. Thank you so much, Jove Tapiador, all the way from Silay City in Bacolod. Again, thank you to everybody for joining us here today. We hope that you enjoyed the session. Please share with us here right now, what was your best insight that you gained from our event here today? We would love to hear from you. We are also looking forward to more collaborations, more co-optation to our friends from finance and banking here in the Philippines. Again, we hope that you all enjoyed your holiday boxes courtesy of Digital Philippines and FinTech Filipinas, and for attending our Thanksgiving event. We hope that you've gained a lot of learning and more things to look forward to in the upcoming year. Again, we would like to thank the following partners: FinTech Philippines Association, Digital Pilipinas, Brancas, the National Privacy Commission, the Philippine National Bank, the Bankers Association of the Philippines, Bayad Center, Bank of the Philippine Islands, Visa, and GoTime. Again, thank you so much for making this possible. We hope to see you again next time. Again, my name is RJ Ledesma. Stay safe, stay well, and again, I'd like to greet everybody ahead of time. Merry Christmas. Mabuhay po kayong lahat. Mabuhay po ang lahat ng taga FinTech Philippines Association at Digital Pilipinas. Thank you and have a great evening.